Welcome back to the Black and Gold Report. Again, talking football with head coach Pete Shinnick. Coach, you've had two disappointing losses in a row, but at least from my perspective, from the layman's perspective, the losses have been very different. I mean, you lost entirely different ways. So I wanted you to talk a little bit about the differences between the two games and what you did differently and what your opponent did differently.
Well, in the Charleston game, I think a lot of it was right out in front of you where you saw it. We had drop passes, we had a block punt for a touchdown, we had a kickoff return for a touchdown, we had some missed tackles. That was kind of right out in front of us, and you saw it, and as you were experiencing it, you were kind of like counting the points of just the miscues that were taking place. Against Carson Newman, it was just more of a methodical, nothing was going right on offense, and defense, we just seemed to be a step slow. So both are disappointing, both are hard to go through. But one, as I sit here with Charleston, still trying to, put that behind us, I'd say we were right there, we were in it. Carson Newman just felt like we never really got on track and never really got going. So both disappointing, but as you say, different types of games, different types of disappointment.
Well, other than one real costly interception, Luke Charles had a pretty good game, and the receiving corps, as you mentioned, they held onto the ball this time much better than they did against Charleston. Talk a little bit about Luke's performance, and do you think that your receiving corps learned a little bit during before this game from the mistakes they made in Charleston? Most definitely. Our receivers learned and played a much better game. Probably their best game of the year was last week versus Carson Newman. Unfortunately, it comes in a loss. Luke has continued to get better. The last 3 weeks, I think he's throwing for about 270 yards a game. He played good against Carson Newman. I thought he played his best game of the year against Charleston. When we were behind, we needed him to be a little more accurate than he was late in the game. But I'll say this about Luke. I mean, he's beat up, he's banged up, he's persevered, he's found a way. He lives in our training room right now, just trying to get his back, back to normal. So he's a competitor, and he fights every play that he's in. All right. Well, I wanted to talk about some of the unsung heroes of football this week, if that's all right, and about your kicking game in particular. You got a freshman, Connor Haskins, who's serving as your place kicker, Bill Stanley, your punter, and then Matt Davis, your long kicker. Talk about how well they've done for you this year. Well, really pleased with all three of them. Matt's done a great job on kickoffs. Early in the year, I think he was kicking as well as anybody in the nation. He had a couple of games where he wasn't kicking off as well, and then last week, I think he got back to where he was. Bill Stanley, I think at one point in time, had cracked the top 15 in punting average, and then he took kind of a little dip, for a couple weeks, but last week got back to over 40-yard average and really has kicked the ball well. Connor came in, as a true freshman. Matt is a redshirt freshman, and Bill's going to be, this is going to be his last season with us, but Connor came in as a true freshman and really has done a great job with our field goals and extra points. So we feel fortunate. 2 of the 3 will be back. They've got bright futures. Both have 3 years eligibility, and really pleased with what they're doing for us right now. You and I have talked over the years as we've done this show that one of the things that you like, one of your benchmarks as a coach, is that you like to dominate time of possession, and you want your team to be on the field as much as possible. But unfortunately, in 7 of the 8 games this year, the other team has won the possession battle, and in fact won it by a relatively wide margin in a number of these games. What is this trend indicative of? I mean, is there something that you can put your finger on to explain it a little bit? Well, one of the things, we are playing a little faster on offense, and this year, with that, we're not having as many plays as we had a year ago. Last year, I think we averaged about 9-10 more plays a game than we're averaging this year. So we've kind of put our defense in a little bit of a bind this year. And then our defense doesn't have a great third down conversion rate this time of year. And I think both those factors play into it. We have sped it up a little bit on offense to be able to try to generate more plays and more big plays, and it hasn't been as successful this year. And so with that, we've lost the time of possession. Interesting thing with Carson Newman, we were up 16-14 at halftime, and then they slowed things down a little bit. And we lost the time of possession battle in the second half against them. Well, Coach, we're running out of time, unfortunately, but your final home game of the season is this week, homecoming against Newberry, who's 5-3. You defeated them last year 23-20. Just like in 10 seconds or so, tell us how you can beat Newberry. We got to play very well. We got to play better than we played in the last 2 weeks. Very good opponent, solid football team, and we just need to eliminate the mistakes and come out with a great game for our homecoming crowd. All right, Coach, we wish you good luck, and we hopefully will see a victory against Newberry. And when we come back, we're going to talk a little homecoming with Director of Student Involvement, Mike Severy.